Powered by Go-Goat Sports in partnership with TSN, it is episode 76, season 4 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. And this is one of the rare occasions over the course of the year, Ray, where you're sitting in the comforts of your home in BC, and here I am in a hotel room in Nashville, Tennessee, with a lot going on as we record here on Tuesday morning, June 27th, in preparation for the draft. So it's a busy time of year.
Yeah, I think if the people that are watching, they can see you're obviously far more organized or clean in your room. There's nothing hanging, or you don't work out, one of the two, because there's nothing hanging
this morning. Thank you. Yes, I did.
Yeah. And where's the workout clothing? Shouldn't that be hanging
right there,
in the lamp in the back? Oh,
see, I got right on the corner.
As you know, mine's hanging on whatever's in the back.
How are things with you?
Things are good.
You've been a homebody, haven't you, for the last few days?
Yeah, Cammie's gone. She's in Nashville, been gone since Saturday, so it's me and the boys. And I don't want to say I got a lot of time, Dregs, but I marinated some steaks, which I never do, cooked them, turned out really good. I have this burger thing recipe that I found that I like. We did that. I baked banana bread, Dregs, for the first time in my life. And I'm not really sure how to feel.
Okay, hold on. Like from scratch, or you went and got the box and then you just threw some chocolate chips?
No, right from scratch. I found a recipe that we're pretty gluten free here, dairy free as much as we can. So I kind of cheated because Cammie's out of town, and so she wouldn't really hear about the effort, but I've never baked banana bread before. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or not, but my kitchen's clean, I had all kinds of time to do nothing, man. Nothing to do.
So hold on, like again, you're a very healthy family, probably trying to eat organically as best you can, right? Like just good, clean source foods. So are you one of the families that throws like, I don't know, ground up shredded zucchini into the banana bread, that sort of stuff?
No, it's banana bread, Dregs. Yeah. It's just less sugar and stuff like that. Like that sort of stuff. And here's the thing, it's banana bread. It's not supposed to taste like the bottom of your shoe. It's supposed to taste like bananas. Yeah. So I will say this, the loaf's gone. So apparently, as long as the teenagers are through it, that means it's good stuff.
And no chocolate chips, nothing to kind of.
Oh, of course. No, you've got it. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Okay. That's what I said. Cammie's in Nashville. She's not going to hear this. She's busy. So by the time it's already ingested, it's long too late. The train's gone.
That's awesome. Good for you. So the next round of banana bread is likely going to be that much better because you.
Okay, this one had some. Oh, there's the other thing. My daughter-in-law, she only took 15, 16 calls on it. Like it says, like grease the pan. I'm like, with what? Like
with what?
Motor oil? I mean, like, I don't know. Like
grease the pan.
And so she's like, just use that parchment paper. You'll be fine. Like, because she knows I won't find anything anyway. So.
The fact that you would even attempt this is impressive enough to me, and clearly was executed to a point where Riley and Reese were happy to get into this thing. So it's all good.
Well, I would say the backup of bananas in the little tray there forced my hand. It was either that or they were going into the bin, and I was like, I don't want to throw stuff out. But I don't know, Dregs. Do you really want to start baking banana bread? Like, what's next? Where am I going?
It's a slippery slope, my friend. It is a slippery slope. You better be careful because now Riley and Reese are going to say, Dad, I mean, you did pretty good. Could you make it again? Yeah.
Well, you know what I do think? One thing I'm going to stay away from, this is ridiculous. I'm going to stay away from cookies because they won't even get off the tray.
Yeah.
I'll make the cookies and eat them before they get on the counter. Like, I just know it, so I'm just not going to do it.
Just never.
What are you doing?
All right, buddy.
Wading through the mess down there?
Yes, I'm going to apologize to anybody who's watching or podcast followers here in episode 76 because, I normally I feel like I'm pretty focused. I steer the ship and we have these debates and conversations and laughs. I'm a little bit all over the place today because, again, we're recording this 2 Tuesday morning, June 27th. A lot going on. My phone is beside me, and I'm getting texts from sources and managers, and we're watching certain trades, and because of that, on this podcast anyway, we're probably going to have to gloss over certain things, including Pierre-Luc Dubois, who will end up in LA. That's the way it seems, but again, that hasn't been confirmed just yet. But let's get into headlines, okay? And I feel like it probably makes the most sense to start with the NHL awards, which by all accounts was a bit of a spectacle in Nashville, as you'd expect. I didn't go and watch live. There was no reason for me to be there live, so I just stayed in my hotel room, got some rest, and watched it on TV. And I often prefer watching on television because that's the world that we work in, and you get a purer sense of what the show is all about. And I mean, typically of any sort of event like this, it felt long at a certain point. But beyond that, you had the Nashville splash and the country music flair and the elements of the TNT guys and all of that. So overall, I think the production was good. So let's begin with the obvious here in headlines, and that was the Connor McDavid show, right? I mean, 4 awards, including the Hart, the Ted Lindsay, the Rocket, and the Art Ross. And then a lynch mob proceeds after the awards because it's acknowledged, as it is through the Professional Hockey Writers Association, what the actual voting was on all of these awards. And someone actually had Connor McDavid 5th on their ballot in registering their ballot for the Hart Trophy. And boy, did that lynch mob ever kick into high gear. I don't know that they've disclosed the identity, but soon enough we're going to know because it's a transparent process. And that's going to be a tough one, Ray, for this individual to get through.
I don't really know. Well, I don't even really know what would happen there. Like, how could you possibly think that would be the place to select him in the voting? I mean, I'll say this. It doesn't even matter that everybody else voted McDavid first. I think the thing that kind of is absurd about it is that he or she voted him 5th.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a tough one.
It just, yeah. I don't even really know what to say about it. I know, like, people get into your Twitter stuff about, not you, all of us that vote. If you have a vote they don't like, and they're, people are like, what are you, an idiot? And, the usual garbage. But for the first time ever, I had all the winners right. So they can do whatever they want with the votes this year. I got them all right. So it's always kind of like, it's kind of nice. I don't know. I thought they were pretty straightforward this year, I thought.
I'm with you.
With most of the winners. And how about, I don't know which way we're going on all of this, but how about Bergeron's vote? Holy smokes.
Landslide.
That's impressive.
But that makes sense, though, doesn't it?
But I'm just saying, at his age, to perform the way that he did, and it's just, it's pretty remarkable. He must be, some guys have a bunch of different awards there. He gets 6 of those, 6 Selke trophies.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool. I'm going to go on this too, Dregs, real quick.
Yeah.
When Mark Messier presents the Messier Leadership Award.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, isn't it?
Really cool.
Wouldn't it be neat if the guys awarding the awards were actually the guys whose names were on the trophy?
It's only been discussed 1,000 times, right?
I just think it is so neat.
Yeah.
It's really awesome to see what that could be. And again, I've said this a million times about, as you say, it's been discussed all over the place. The awards as they currently are would be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They would be recognized actually by more people. They would be there all year.
For sure.
And then the new trophies would be the new trophies. And somewhere in the future, you'd put them next to the old trophies in the Hall of Fame and rename them in 30 years.
Yeah. It's like we think that we're going to abandon history and forget about, some of these great builders and coaches and players and managers and all of that from ancient history. No, we're not going to do that. But don't you want to shepherd in a reconnect for the younger generations, for our generations who watched and then you played against so many of these great players. You know, the fact that there isn't a trophy recognizing Wayne Gretzky, at least now there is one for Mark Messier, and Steven Stamkos happily, accepted that award. But every time we bring this up with the head honchos of the NHL, I'm talking the commissioner's office here, right? There's instant pushback. Yeah, no, we don't really talk about that. Why not? Like, why not? It makes so much sense. No.
Yeah, anyway. I just there is nobody there like Anze Kopitar wins the Lady Byng.
Yeah.
Like nobody knows who that is. With all due respect.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that the Norris family owned the Red Wings. Like no 14-year-old anyway.
Yeah.
They're the ones you're supposed to be appealing to. Doesn't matter about us guys. So I would love to see it happen because I think it would be a really cool thing.
All right. Well, I'll zip through the awards just so we acknowledge them, and then we can cherry pick, right? We've talked about Connor McDavid and what he accomplished. So you've got Patrice Bergeron wins the Selke by landslide. Anze Kopitar wins the Lady Byng. Michael Backlund wins the King Clancy. The Masterton goes to Chris Letang. That one seemed pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. And why don't we? Well, Matty Beniers the Calder. Linus Hallmark wins the Vezina. Erik Karlsson, of course, wins Norris. So we'll get to some of the major awards like Karlsson and Ullmark and maybe Matty Beniers here in headlines. But I want to skip ahead to Jim Montgomery of the Boston Bruins winning the Jack Adams as coach of the year. And I watched it live, his acceptance speech, which was, initially the award was introduced and announced by Barry Trotz, general manager soon to be of the Nashville Predators. So Jim Montgomery of the Boston Bruins wins the Jack Adams. And there's so many people who are so well prepared for moments like that. Right. And I'm always, we just got through the Hall of Fame in the new class. And every year when they actually go through the induction, I'm deeply impressed by how much people invest in hitting all the right points that got them to Hall of Fame status. Right. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who speaks often publicly, I don't know that people who don't do it realize how difficult that is to do. Right. And it's not just projecting and trying to hit the right notes and all of that nonsense. No, it's trying to succinctly share your feelings and acknowledge the most important people in your life that got you to that place. Right. And Jim Montgomery, man, I'm watching it live and I'm just going, that's right up there with some of the best honesty, inspirational words I've heard maybe ever, and how open he was about taking us back to his Dallas days, which ended him on the unemployment line because of his struggle with alcoholism and the things that he had going away from the National Hockey League. And he said it so matter-of-factly and so sincerely in acknowledging the teams around him. And he's not talking about the Dallas Stars or St. Louis, or in this case, the Boston Bruins. To the point he is, but he's talking about friends and family and the players and everybody personally involved. I watched it 3 more times this morning just because of how impressed I was when I watched it live last night.
Well, it wasn't really a speech. It was him talking about his life. And I'm sure to Jim, I got to talk to him a lot this year as we did a bunch of Bruins games. And there's an energy to Jim that is really easy to get pulled into. He's an enthusiastic guy. But as he was talking and mentioning the names of the people around him, and it was just his life. And clearly the impact these people have had on him, it just kind of flowed right out of him. I mean, he's not reading it. He's not, it's just his life. And I too was really impressed and happy for him. I'm happy to see anybody that's had a struggle that has found their way out of the struggle. And, he had an amazing year, and I'm sure that was quite a night for him and his family. It was really, really awesome to see his energy come out in a really grateful way. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was quite a day, really, for the Boston Bruins, right? Linus Ullmark wins the Vezina last night. And then earlier in the day, you had Don Sweeney, the general manager, execute a pretty impressive trade in clearing up cap space and moving Taylor Hall. And I guess the rights of Nick Foligno. I mean, the hope of the Chicago Blackhawks is they will be able to sign Nick Foligno for his experience and character with a young developing team there. But just as important to all of that is the fact that they clear that cap space, right? And, it makes sense that they'd want to try and keep Tyler Bertuzzi in the mix, and he's probably going to command upwards of $6 million. So quick thought on that trade and maybe how you see both Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno fitting in with the Chicago Blackhawks, who are clearly in a rebuild mode.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably the first step in Boston as they try and navigate from a record-breaking team into whatever they're going to be going forward. Like, how do you stay relevant at the level they want to be relevant at? Mm-hmm. And clearly and I mean, maybe you're closer to having discussions about it, but most of us aren't. What are they doing in the middle of the ice? Mm-hmm. Where does, is Bergeron or Krejci coming back? If they're not, how do you replace them? How do you replace them with, Tyler Bertuzzi is a terrific player, but you can't have all your assets on the wings. You need people in the middle. Can Pavel Zacha become a top 2 centerman? I'm not so sure offensively he can be that, but that's the next step is clearing a little more space so they can attack that position. Do they make a move in goal? I mean, you mentioned Ullmark with the Vezina, makes $5 million. Can they go with Jeremy Swayman and somebody else and not take too far of a step back and move $5 million of Ullmark, who's clearly at the height of what his value is going to be? So lots of things to think about there. And for Hall and perhaps Foligno, this is a tough time in a player's career. Taylor probably knew he was going to get moved or likely to be moved, and you go to a complete rebuild. Now, I went to Atlanta around that age, and you look and you go, we're not winning. Yeah. Like your priority is not the team's priority. And that's a tough place to be. Now, he's got 2 years left on his deal, right, Dregs?
Yeah, 2 more years. Yeah.
Because I would suspect some of the players that Chicago might acquire to buffer around Connor Bedard are going to be guys on 1-year deals that they can move towards the deadline. I don't see them adding any term. I see them adding players. They've also got to get to the cap floor. And there's the thing with Foligno. If a really good team offers him 1 year and the Blackhawks offer him 2, then what are you going to do? Right. I mean, then you're into a decision.
Yeah. You want to wrap up the Boston angle? Ullmark, we've already kind of talked about. So, you know what about Erik Karlsson? Let's get to the awards. Yeah. Erik Karlsson wins the Norris. And this is how people say that we in the media don't really have a heart. Well, we kind of do. So we, as an example, Pierre-Luc, myself, Chris Johnson, Ryan Rashog here on the ground in Nashville, purposely avoided talking about Erik Karlsson and the potential of trade yesterday, just out of respect to the fact that we knew he was going to win the the Norris Trophy last night, right? So let him have his moment. Guess what we're going to be talking about today? Being Tuesday.
Yeah. Moment's over.
Yep. See you later. You're moving on. So that too seemed like a bit of a no-brainer, right? With all due respect to some of the really strong defensive performances that we saw this season, given everything that Karlsson did on a so-so team, if not worse than so-so in San Jose, certainly deserving of the attention that he got for the Norris, and the fact that the vote was fairly lopsided as well, I would say.
Well, I mean, 100 points from the blue line. I don't care what type of team you have around you. It's a monumental season.
Yeah.
And it's funny, so like he wanted to go to a winner. Doug Wilson makes that trade. He gets $11 million a year, which was a staggering contract even at the time. And now they're not going to be a winner, so he wants to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he and his agents are finding that two things are, you know, it's not so much Erik Karlsson the player. It's what do you do with this $11 million for the next 4 years per?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy to say, well, San Jose should take back 50%. Maybe the owner doesn't want to pay him $5.5 million to wear somebody
Not
else's
play
jersey.
there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's a crazy amount of money, and there's 4 years left on it. It's not like you're just chipping away at a buyout, right? This is a trade that they're asking you to pull back $5.5 million at 50%. That's not.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happen. So that will lessen the return that Mike Greer and the Sharks can get back, and try and find some way to make it work. And I think he'll still, as I say, I don't have your insight, but I think he's going to get traded. I look at man, it's not that easy here. That this year is going to be a tight squeeze before the cap goes up. Hopefully next year that teams would have a little more space to put that contract in.
It's curious to me, Ray. And look, I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. It's not an easy transaction to make. We've talked about in the last episode, maybe the Carolina Hurricanes. We know that there's interest there in Erik Karlsson. So look at that blue line. You've got Brent Burns. You've got D'Angelo once they get all of that mess sorted out. And who am I missing on that back end? It just seems like, what do you
Brett Pesce.
Brett Pesce when they get the contract.
Okay, so here's the thing. The Burns Karlsson thing already didn't work once.
Right.
So now you're going to change jersey colors and it's going to work. I mean, that's a big swing.
Yeah. That could be a team that Tom Dundon likes to be in everything, right? And Donnie Waddell is there to try and facilitate. I'm curious about Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, there's cap issues with a lot of these teams. Kyle Dubas loved the idea of bringing Erik Karlsson to the Toronto Maple Leafs. He did. And they just couldn't execute it. It just wasn't going to work. So I wonder if Dubas wants to try and make a splash with the Penguins. So I'll keep an eye on that. So CAA represents...
he wants to make a splash. It's whether it can be there. Right.
Yeah. Pat Brisson, who represents Pierre-Luc Dubois, essentially Montreal tried to get back in the Dubois race here, right? Really, it did turn out to be Los Angeles and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Winnipeg isn't really interested in a rebuild. Winnipeg needs NHL-ready players. That's what Winnipeg needs. They're going to try and fix this thing on the fly here. Montreal re-engages, but as late as Saturday, maybe Sunday, Brisson informs Montreal and Winnipeg that, he's likely to end up in LA. Why is he? So without knowing all the details of what that's going to look like, and we've speculated on Iafallo, maybe Velarde, some other assets from the Kings, which I know you love. How do you see Pierre-Luc Dubois fitting in with the Los Angeles Kings?
Well, I think the only critique I can ever make of Dubois' game is the way his game goes like the waves. It's up and it's down and it's up and it's down. And then, he's such a powerful player.
Yeah.
If he can find a level of consistency in LA, and maybe he'll feel a little bit of what you hope is a culture that has been left behind by the Kings Cup teams, right? There's a certain way the Kings play and a certain way Todd McClellan would like to play and Rob Blake would like to play. Yeah. Dubois sliding in with Kopitar is pretty intriguing. That's, they're big. That would be great size. You have Phil Deneau there. Now, can you, I believe, does Kopitar have 1 year left on his deal?
Let me check. Is there, I think that's right.
Because Kopitar's at a big number. Deneau's at 6. Dubois would be 8 or 9. They're going to have to navigate their way around 1 year of that.
1 year left, Franze
Yeah.
Kopitar. Yeah.
And then, and the reason I bring up the 1 year of Kopitar is not that, he's going to go somewhere else, is that when that deal's up, you would you would negotiate a contract that's more manageable, given his age and, and just the way the cap is. Dubois in LA is a pretty stout addition. Now, if I'm Winnipeg, I want Byfield in that deal. And the reason I say Byfield is if I'm losing a centerman and I've got to bring a prospect-ish player back, here's a guy that just hasn't touched where most people hope he's going to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to replenish that. I mean, the names you brought up, Velarde and Iafallo play, Iafallo's a winger. Velarde plays mostly on the wing, can play center and really had a breakout year, over 20 goals last year. But it feels like, to me anyway, like I would want that piece in that deal. Unless in the other couple of deals they're going to make, they've got a centerman coming back there to Winnipeg.
Excellent stuff. Those are your headlines.